Hi everyone, welcome to Brush and Bubbles. Today is really exciting. We're going to be painting 5 brand new Mr. Men characters. I'm going to talk you through how we're going to paint each one. We're going to go nice and slowly and we're going to do it all step by step. So don't worry if you've not painted for years or you're not that confident. We're going to make it nice and easy and have a nice time. So it's all about having a go and enjoying it. So I really hope you enjoy it. We are going to be painting 5 Mr. Men in a row. So we're going to start with Little Miss Energy on this side, moving over to Mr. Brilliant, Mr. Calm, Little Miss Brave and Little Miss Kind. And as I say, I'll break down exactly what we're doing. We'll go following along at the same time. So to start with, I'm just going to talk you through what you're going to need for today's painting. Obviously we're going to need some paint, so we've got this lovely set of acrylics. I'll let you know which colours I'm using. We are going to need 2 brushes, so the medium flat square brush and then the smaller pointy brush. Again, I'll let you know which one I'm using, and the pointy one will be for more of the details and you can get much more kind of fine areas by just not pushing so hard with that one. So I'll let you know which one I'm using. At the end we're going to be going around with some black pens. I've got 2 different thicknesses, but don't worry if you just have the one. But if you do want to have one that's slightly thicker and one that's a bit thinner. A pencil, we're just going to start off with just mapping out the shapes, and a palette. You can use a palette like this or an old plate if you prefer, and a little jar or cup of water and some kitchen roll to dry it off. What we're also going to be using is I want to make really nice round circles for their bodies, so I'm actually going to use an egg cup. This one's really good because there's 2 slightly different sizes of circles, so I can have a slightly smaller one for some of them and a slightly bigger one for the other ones. So if you have something like an egg cup, something else around the home that will just help you to get a really neat circle, then grab that and it'll make it a lot easier for you. Okay, let's get started. I think it'll be easier to start in the middle and work our way out. That way we're making sure we're leaving enough room to fit all 5 characters on your canvas. So we're going to start in the middle with Mr. Calm. Now Mr. Calm, I'm going to use the slightly smaller circle that I've got, and I'm just going to place it in the middle of my canvas and take my pencil and I'm going to just draw around. Don't press too hard, we don't want to dent the canvas, and we also want it to be easier to paint and kind of cover up these lines eventually. So just really lightly drawing around. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but I've just done a really light circle in the middle, and that's going to become Mr. Calm eventually. And then I'm going to do another small one on this side towards the edge, and this one is going to be Little Miss Energy. So she's a bit of a smaller one as well, so I'm just going to place that slightly lower down than the other one, just so that they're not all in a perfectly straight line. Okay, so there's the body for Little Miss Energy. And then for the next 2, I'm going to turn my egg cup around and just do the slightly bigger one. It's very subtle, it just kind of mixes it up a little bit. And I'm going to do this slightly so he's behind Mr. Calm. This one's going to be Mr. Brilliant. So again, pressing very lightly, it's just slightly bigger than the other ones, Mr. Brilliant. And then on the other end over here, we're going to have Little Miss Kind with this same shape as well. Okay, and now for the 5th one, we're going to do Little Miss Brave, and she is not actually circular, so we're going to do this one freehand. She is a triangle shape, but there she's got curved edges. So I'm going to start by just drawing the top, straight-ish line, but with curved corners, and the point going downwards. Like that. See what I've done there? And now what we're going to do is just mark out where their other parts of their shapes are going to fit. So we can do their hair, their hats, and their legs and their hands. So I'll just start with doing all of their feet and their legs. So I'm going to start on this side with Little Miss Energy, and because she's so energetic, we're going to have her legs kind of, she's sort of, imagine she's running or mid-jump. So I'm just going to draw a little leg, so 2 little lines, keep them the same width apart, and then a little foot out the side, and then the other one, same shape but over this side of her body. So a little leg and then a rounded foot, and both feet pointing the same way because she's going to be running in this direction. Similar thing with Mr. Brilliant, so down, little leg there, foot going off that way as well. His feet are slightly closer together, I think he's less leaping than Little Miss Energy. Same foot again like that. This one's Mr. Calm, so again he's not too energetic in comparison. Again, just make sure you're not pressing too hard. I'll do this one slightly at an angle again, just so he's not completely still, he's still walking. Now, Little Miss Brave, I'm going to have her stood still, so I'm going to do a wider 2 lines coming down and then feet going off both ways and a little line up. So she's standing with her feet together but feet facing the other way, and I'm going to do the same with Little Miss Kind as well. Okay, so that's all their legs. Now we can do their arms and their feet. Mr. Men characters all have 4 fingers, so just bear that in mind. So we're going to just do a little arm, 4 fingers on the edge here. And I'm going to do this one so it's actually going behind Mr. Brilliant. They can be sort of overlapping, that's fine. Mr. Brilliant is actually quite creative, so he's going to be holding a paintbrush eventually. So you can just draw that in now as well. I'm just going to draw a very long thin paintbrush shape. So a long stick and then a sticky out bit, and you can just do his fingers poking out there. His other hand can go behind Mr. Calm. Mr. Calm's hand I'm going to do overlapping in front of Mr. Brilliant. So sticking out 4 fingers, remember, like that, and the other one actually coming out from his body like that, 4 fingers, like that. And then Little Miss Brave coming out from her body as well, but actually kind of overlapping her body for the fingers. And then actually Little Miss Kind, her hands are going to be within her body, so you can just mark them out like that. She's basically got her hands up to her mouth in this pose. Okay, now what we're going to do is go through one by one and add either their hair or their hat if they have one. So again, starting at this side, so Little Miss Energy, she has hair and a fringe. So what we're going to do is start at the edge here, just jut out a little bit, and we're going to just do a curve, going like this, Don't worry if it overlaps the paintbrush a little bit. So down to just above where her arm is, like that. And then further up, it's going to be a fringe. So like across, I'm just going to do a little chip up like that. Again and again. So it's her fringe, but also the little gaps in her fringe. Ignore this line now because we'll paint over that. But if you imagine that's her hair coming down like that. And then she has a ponytail up in the air. So start by just doing a circle for the bobble. And then her hair is like a lightning bolt shape. Like that. Okay, so as I say, don't worry about that top of the head because we'll be going over that. But what you can do is move over to Mr. Brilliant, and he has a top hat on. So we're going to start by drawing a curved line at the top, like that. And then we're going to come up, and it's narrower at the bottom and wider at the top. Like that. Mr. Calm has a nice sort of quiff hairdo. So I'm just going to draw a wave line on top like that. And then this quiff coming overlapping on his forehead. And like that. So this bit comes up a bit inwards from that. So that bit's behind and this bit's over his forehead. Like that. With Little Miss Brave, she has got hair that comes down like this, both sides meeting in the middle, and then a wider bobble, so a little oval, and then a nice swishy ponytail like that. And then finally, Little Miss Kind, again has a parting in the middle, and then two ponytails each side. I've done mine slightly behind her, so we'll just do it on this side. So a little bobble, and then little ponytail right at the edge. So that's your basic shape for the outlines we're going to worry about for now. While I've got the pencil still in my hand there, I'm just going to draw a curved line going behind all of them, and this is just marking out the ground that they're standing on. So it's like a little hill. So it's going like that. Okay, so I've just squeezed out some colours onto my palette. I have got white. I've got quite a lot of white because it's good to mix with lots of the colours. I've got blue, purple, pink, red, orange, yellow, and then 3 different shades of green. So you can squeeze them all out now, or you can just get them as you need them, whichever is easiest. We are going to start nice and simple with the sky. I always like starting with the sky because it's not too fiddly and you kind of get a big area covered and it's not too scary. So take the bigger of your brushes and just dip it in the water, dab the excess off, and this just sort of loosens the bristles and it'll just make it nice and easy to go on. What we want is a really nice pale blue for the sky. So we're going to mix blue with white. So you can either mix it in one of these wells or you can take it into the middle. I am going to take a blob and put it there. I'm going to take plenty of white, mix enough of this colour because you really want the colour to be really uniform across the whole sky, because these illustrations are always just so neat and bright and vibrant, so we don't want to have to mix another shade to match it ideally. You can add a little bit of water if you want to as well, that just keeps it nice and fluid. So give it a really, really good mix. And what we are going to do, so we've mixed that with the bigger brush, just really briefly swap to the smaller brush, and we're just going to draw out a kind of a bumpy line because we want there to be some clouds in the sky as well. So you can just draw with this blue paint. So I'm just going to draw in kind of a curved shape the outline of some clouds. Whenever you reach the edge of your canvas, just loop the painting around the side, because if we do that every time you reach the edge, at the end all the paint will be around every edge and it'll just look really neat and finished and ready to be hung on the wall, hopefully. Okay, so once you've drawn your outline, just leave that brush in the water, go back to the bigger one and just start filling in everything above that line. Okay, so don't forget your edges, and then you've done your sky. What we're going to do is actually leave these white, the clouds, and we're going to move on and do the green grass underneath. So you don't need to wash your brush because it's very similar colours that we're going to be using. So just maybe squeeze off a little bit on your palette, and we're going to make a nice vibrant green. So from your paints, you can see the two of the paler greens. We're actually going to mix those two together to get a really nice, vibrant, bright green. Again, you want plenty of this colour so that your colour of the grass isn't patchy and changing. You want it really a consistent colour. So mix those together. Add a bit of white if you want it a bit brighter. Give it a good mix. If you want it a bit yellowier, you could always add a dash of yellow as well. And you're going to use a mixture of this big brush and the smaller brush for this. So maybe block in the bigger areas and then swap to the smaller brush. And we're going right up to this line that we drew and around all the legs and the arms and the bodies. Okay, so just go nice and neatly up to that line as best you can. So as I say, you can swap over to your smaller brush for the fiddlier bits. Okay, we are going to start on this side again with Little Miss Energy, and she is yellow. So we want it really nice and vibrant, so you can actually just take the yellow from your paint pack and just use that directly on there. There are two yellows, and for this I'm using the primary yellow, so it's the lighter, less orangey of the two. So just be careful if you've already used this paint that there might be bits of green in, so just avoid those. And then you can start colouring in and just be really careful, especially around the edges. Ignore the hair for now. We're just going to do her body, her legs and her arms. She's going to be wearing shoes, so you don't need to worry about her feet. Little tip when you're doing something that's more detailed, just don't press too hard with your brush. So if you look at the shape, it is a nice point, but if you press really hard, all the bristles fan out and it'll be a really thick line. If you press really, really lightly, they'll stay in a nice point and you can get really more delicate details done, and that will really help with things like the fingers. Make sure you're going right up and covering the pencil line. If it's a paler colour like yellow, it might take a few layers to cover that, so you can always come back to that if you're still seeing your pencil line showing through at the moment. Don't worry, we can come back and you can add to that later. Okay, so I've done her yellow for now. We'll just leave her to dry and then we'll come back and do a little bit more. But we're going to move on to Mr. Brilliant, and he is orange. So you can again use the pre-mixed orange. Just start colouring in him as well. It's really nice using colours straight from the tube sometimes because it's really vibrant, and they are very vibrant characters, so that works really well. If you want to soften it a little bit, you could add some white. I will show you the difference and then you can choose kind of what shade you want for him. So this is just with mixing a little bit of white and even a bit of yellow if you wanted it a paler yellow. See, it just softens it slightly. So just pick a shade and then stick to it so it's the same all over. Now just be careful here because Mr. Calm's hand is in front, so we want to just carefully go round that. Same with a bit of his hair as well in my case. It depends how close you've done yours together. It might not be overlapping so much and that's absolutely fine. Then just press lighter when you're at a detailed part, don't press as hard with the brush. Again, you can do his legs, but don't worry about his feet because he will be wearing shoes. And his arms. Okay, and then give your brush a wash. Mr. Calm is a very pale blue, so make sure your brush is really clean, dry it off. And then you can take this colour that you did for the sky, but just add a bit more white. He's a bit paler than that. And then start colouring him in. Before you do, Mr. Calm does wear glasses, so I find it easier if you just mark out where those are going to go, because they're going to be white. So if you just draw out 2 circles. Just helps, so you're not layering up too much. So leave the circles white for now. You can do that bit in pencil if you prefer, if you find it easier to draw with pencil rather than the paint. It's completely up to you. We're going to go in later with a black pen to kind of add the definition back where the arm is and things like that, so don't worry too much if it's sort of like that, kind of blending in a bit. We'll define that later. Now, he is wearing shoes, but these are more sandals, so actually you do the whole thing pale blue for now. We can add the sandals on top later. There we go. And then wash your brush. Now for Little Miss Brave, which is this one, it's a really nice, like, bright sort of teal colour. So we're going to take some of this dark green and we're going to mix it with a bit of this blue that we had from the sky. So if you need to mix from scratch, we're doing the dark emerald green, which is actually called Viridian green, that one. And we're mixing it with the blue and some white. And then ignore her hair for now, we're just going to colour in her body. Nice teal. She's not wearing any shoes, so you can do her feet as well. There we go. and then wash your brush again. Little Miss Kind, it's sort of a very pale lilac colour. So wash your brush, and then we're going to take purple and white. You want lots of white compared to the purple because she is very pale. Add a touch of pink as well. A very pale pinky purple. Don't worry if you actually can't see. You might be able to see the arms still showing through, or you might not. Don't worry, we can bring those back later. There we go. So we've done the bodies now, and we're going to go back this way again and work on their hair or their hats and start building up the details. So wash your brush. So again, starting with Little Miss Energy. Her hair is like a teal colour, similar to that colour, but a bit paler and a bit bluier. So mix in a bit more of the sky colour to that. So I'm just, again, this is just the dark green, blue and white, but we want a paler, bluer version than we have over here. You can start colouring in her hair. Don't forget, press very lightly when you want more detail. Have better control of your brush if you're gentle. Little lightning bolt hairdo as well. Her nose is the same colour, so while we've got that on our brush, take some paint. You can just twiddle it off so there's not too much, and we're going to just draw a little circle in the middle of her face for her nose. Okay, so we're going to move on to Mr. Brilliant for the time being, just sort of gradually working up the details. So the nose on Mr. Brilliant is a very similar colour, so it makes sense to do that as well while we've got this paint on our brush. So again, just a little nose there. Might have to put it on quite thick to go over show up over the orange. That's fine, like that. And a bit on his shoes very similar colour as well. So just the centre section, you can just do a little section on both of his feet and a little line underneath for the sole of his trainers as well. Now, Mr. Brilliant, I mentioned, is very creative and he is holding a paintbrush, but he also has little paint splats. So while we've got this colour, you can also, just over here, do a little blobby shape where he's spilt a bit of paint on him. You may well have similar paint splats yourself. So, little splat of paint while we've got that on there. And then give your brush a wash. Now, his hat is of a pale purple, but darker than that one. So just take some purple paint, mix it with a bit of white, or you can use some of that colour we had before. As I say, it's a bit darker than the one we've used previously. And don't worry about the line of his hat, but you can fill in the body of it. Okay, and it very, very slightly just overlaps his head, so just kind of curve it very slightly up top of his head. And then using the same colour, you can just do the rest of his shoes. So the toe and that end. There we go. Wash your brush again. And now that's had a couple of moments, we're just going to go back and add the red on here. I don't want to do it straight away, just in case it mixed with the colour next to it. But you can just take the red straight from the tube and fill in this bubble on top. And she's got little red bits on the front of her trainers as well. Again, they kind of go in like a zigzag, so just look at the shape I'm doing there. Sort of half red, half white, but it's sort of a bit of a zigzag where the two shapes join. Okay. While you have the red on your brush, you can just mix it with the tiniest bit of blue and a little bit of yellow. That will make a brownie colour. We're going to use that for Mr. Brilliant's brush handle. And you can add even more blue to make a darker brown for the end of his brush. Okay, so wash your brush, and before we move on, we're going to just finish the splats on Mr. Brilliant. So we're going to do a yellow one down here. So it's another paint splat. Always come back to that later if it's not as vibrant. You can always layer up acrylics, which is really good. Give it a wash. We're going to do a pale pinky splatter, very similar to this sort of colour. And that's just going to be peeking out behind there. Okay. So we can now move on to Mr. Calm. Mr. Calm has a yellow nose, so we can start with that. You can either leave his eyes just white like that, or you can go back and do it with actual white paint. It's up to you. Depends how neat your original circles were. I really like how we've left the canvas showing through because I think it adds a bit of texture to the clouds, but you might want a smoother texture for the eyes of his glasses. Okay, and then he has slightly darker hair and sandals, so you can actually use the same colour that you use in the sky if you've still got that. If you don't worry, just blue and white, but it wants to be noticeably darker than his body. You can colour in his hair. And his little sandals, so a really thin line underneath both feet, and then a little section in the middle, like sliders, like that. That's all we need to do for him for now. So wash your brush again, and we're going to move on to Little Miss Brave and her purple hair. So we're going to just use the purple straight from the tube this time, so it's nice and dark, so you can just dip straight in and start colouring in her hair. Leave the bobble blank, but you can fill in the ponytail as well. Nice little flick to the ponytail. Okay, and then we're going to wash the brush. And her bobble matches her nose, and it's a nice vibrant pink. So you can use the pink straight from the paint. And that one is called the Primary Magenta. So you colour in her hair bobble. And a little blob in the middle for her nose. I'm actually just going to add a little bit of white so it stands out a bit more against her body. There we go. Give your brush a wash. Now for this one, her hair is yellow and pink. So I'm going to start with the yellow, and I'm going to take yellow and mix it with some white. She's very pastel, this one, so we don't want them too vibrant. So a nice pale yellow, and I'm going to do the centre strip of her hair. And the bobble. And the bobble, if you could see that one, but it's behind her on mine. And also her nose. Okay, and then I'm going to wash my brush. And we want a slightly pinker version than the purple background for her hair. But I'm going to add a bit of yellow as well, because it's almost like a peachy pink. So, just to recap, it's purple, pink, yellow, and lots of white. It's still quite pale. Purple, pink, yellow, and white. And then I'm going to just do a strip each side of the yellow. And I'm going to use this colour to do her little ponytail, her pigtail. And obviously if you could see, if there's a gap the other side, you do the other one. The same, but mine is overlapping with the other one, so I don't need to. So there's only a couple of really small details that we're going to add in colour now, just before we move on to doing the outlines. These are good to do now because the colours around them will have dried a little bit, so you're not going to get much leakage. So, a little bit of white. I'm just going to do the soles of these shoes. With my white, I'm also just going to go over the eyes of this one, just to really brighten those up, layer it up. Now's a good time to layer up any other colours that you think could do with an extra coat to make them really stand out, like a nose or something like that. If you think something's not vibrant enough, go back and add another layer now. We're also going to do a purple squiggle in this hat, so we're going to use darker purple and just really lightly press with our brush so it doesn't go too thick. You can add a touch of water if your paint's drying out a little bit. Twiddle off the brush at a nice point, and we're just going to do a little loop-the-loop in this hat. I'm going to do 3 loops like that for his pattern on his hat. Okay, I'll just run through quickly the colourful elements that each one has so you can check you haven't missed anything, or if you want to brighten anything up, then now's a good chance. So this one here is yellow with a nice bright bluey green hair and nose. She's got red and white trainers and a little red bobble on her hair. And this one here is orange and there's a yellow splat. I'm actually just going to brighten up. Yellow splat, blue splat, and a pinky purpley splat as well. Hat is purple with a darker purple squiggle, and the shoes are purple and blue. This one here is pale blue with a yellow nose and a slightly darker blue hair and shoes. This one is this sort of tealy colour, purple hair, a bright pink bobble and nose. And this one's a pale lilac with yellow in her hair and on her nose, and a slightly peachy pink in her hair. So if you've got all those elements, just leave your brush in the water, and you can move those out the way if you wish. We're going to swap over to our pens. So as I mentioned, I have a thicker one and a thinner one. Don't worry if you've only got one, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to start with the thicker one, and with this we are going to outline all of the shapes, but also add things like the faces, so the eyes and the mouths and things like that. So you can start off by doing the clouds. I find easier, it's kind of a nice way to kind of get used to the pen and warm up with the pen. So start kind of going over the outline. If you need to turn it round, make it easier, then do. And then you can just mark out the hill. Don't forget your edges. And then we can start going around our shapes of the figures. When it comes to the arms, leave a little gap. Quite often they have one that's sort of coming out from behind and one that is sort of merging like that. So for example, this leg, the line goes like that, but then we're going to not do the line when it comes to this leg. I'm going to do it like that. So just follow which ones I'm doing. This arm is coming out like that, but this arm is coming out behind, and don't forget 4 fingers. Okay, so we've done the outline of her. We can start adding the face now. So little oval eyes, quite close to the nose. And then she's got a nice open big smile. Like that. And little U shapes each end, and then you can colour in her mouth. Like that. We're going to go back with the thinner pen. We can do that now. With the thinner line, add some little movement lines. So I'm going to add little dashes around her hair. One there. And this just gives her the sense that she's dashing around, and I'm going to do little thin marks around her eyes as well. Okay, so, oh, with those thin lines, thinner pen, we can just add some thin lines for her hair as well. again with this one. This leg in front. And then you can do little eyes, so little ovals. Draw around the nose, and he's got a really big smile, but it's just one line instead of a big open one like that. And then with the thinner pen, little eyebrows. And little movement on his feet as well. Moving on to this one. Don't forget 4 fingers. This arm is sort of sticking out, so we're just drawing around what we already drew out earlier on. Just do it as neat as you can. Little quiff. Round his glasses really carefully. Little line in between them and going off his head as well. Round his nose, little eyes, and he's got a nice smile too, like that, and just one little U shape on that side, little smile there. This one, her arms sort of half in, half out her body. Same on this side. Remember, 4 fingers. then little eyes. A big smile. A little U on that side. With the smaller pen you can do little eyebrows. A bit more curvy, those eyebrows like that. With the smaller pen you can just do little lines dividing the hair as well. Little oval eyes. And just redraw in the hands. So if you can still see your hands, then just trace around those. If not, we're just going to draw a little hands here. Don't forget 4 fingers. And a smile behind that. A little U on that side. And she's got little tiny freckles. So you can do 5 little dots on each side. And little eyebrows as well. There we go. So you have painted your gorgeous Mr. Men and Little Miss characters. Really hope you enjoyed painting them, and yeah, you've had a lovely time. Thank you so much for joining us. So there we go, you've finished your Mr. Men, Little Miss painting. Really hope you've enjoyed your brush and bubble session. If you want to keep painting, we've got loads of videos on our YouTube channel and they're all really good fun, and there's a big range of different things you can paint, so have a look. Yeah, thanks so much. I hope you've had a really good time. Have a lovely evening.